It was January.
Snow on the ground.
Lots of snow on the ground.
Yeah. And so, how big was this thing?
I would say 8 to 9 feet.
Wow.
Yeah, big. Like if I try to compare, I grew up on a farm, and we had cows, and we had your big Holstein bulls. If you took one of the Holstein bulls and stood it up on its ass, straight up and down, and put a pair of legs on it, that's how big this thing was.
Wow.
Standing there with a pair of legs and a pair of arms and a face.
What are you guessing it would weigh?
I would say, geez, it got to have been at least the 700 to 800 pounds. At least. May have been even more. I don't know. I'm a bad judgment of weight.
How would you compare it to the Patterson Gremlin film?
I would say it looks, actually, the one I saw, it resembles that a lot, but it was larger. I thought overall a little bigger. And no boobs. It was a male, for sure.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see the male genitalia?
No, couldn't see that. Actually, that was some of the thickest hair on it. Was
really?
Around the crotch and the leg area, and then around where like the elbows, kind of like the back of the elbow area was. That had the thickest hair. Everything else was like very uniform. Like if you see, like kind of like if you moose, like the way their hair is, or like a bear hair.
Uh-huh.
The hair was real tight everywhere. Head,
when you say
face.
thick, do you mean thick? Is thickness, or are you talking about length?
No, thick. Yeah, lengthwise, the only place it had anything over like an inch, like maybe 1.25 inches, was around just its like low underarm elbow area.
Yeah. Around
the crotch area was real thick and dark, I remember, and the legs actually had longer hair under, well, from what I could see, because it had its leg kind of propped up, and I could see it blowing in the wind, and the hair was blowing underneath the leg, kind of like that, and snow had. Like I call them snow dingleberries. My dog with long hair used to get them in the winter, and it was, I could see them flapping in the wind. And that's.
Did you see its feet?
No, I never saw its feet. No,
what
he was actually standing in a snow bank, so I never saw feet. I saw from about like, I don't know, maybe 1/4 inch up, a quarter of his shin on the way up, but everything else was like in that big snow bank.
What about the chest? What did the chest look like?
Chest was actually very manly, and that had the least amount of hair next to around where the facial area was.
Was there anything peculiar about the face, nose, mouth to you, or the shape of the head?
Yeah, well, the shape of the head was actually just like ours, but bigger. Like just overall, it fit the size of this thing. And it was very squared off in the jaw. The nose looked very human. The mouth was real long. That was probably the biggest part I noticed on it. And the reason why I could tell where the mouth started and ended was because it had this like kind of white frothy stuff, like it had dry mouth or something in the corners. So where mine and yours and everybody else's mouth comes to an end here, it was actually over on the sides, almost closer to its ears. But other than that, it looked very, very human.
Did you see any teeth?
No, it never gave me any teeth. It did have a weird look on its face, like kind of like it was confused, kind of like if you were looking at something, somebody told you something, you were kind of like, huh? It had that, because I could see the wrinkles up from its nose up to its forehead, right where the hairline actually kind of started up above like where your brow ridge is. And then, but the rest of it all down through here was all pretty clean, and I could see the lips.
Was it too dark, or could you make out what color the hair was?
Well, to me the hair looked black, but the way my light, like it was standing on the side of me, like I was on the road in this direction. It was just off to the left side of me, up on a snowbank. I had the headlight of my snowmobile flashing straight down the road. It looked black, but every once in a while, when the wind would either blow the hair, and the only movement I ever saw the thing do, because it was standing like this with its arms down to the side, kind of crunched over a little bit. And when I came up close to it, the only movement I ever saw was this, just to like almost face me. And when I saw that, it either had gray hair or the hair was wet and oily, and it gave it that silvery kind of appearance in certain spots, but it looked black to me. But it did have, like, I don't know if it was oil or if it was actually gray hair.
Interesting. Yeah. The guy in the Allagash reported an oily sheen to the Bigfoot. He said he saw it too.
Yeah. And see, I couldn't tell if it was oily sheen, because like I said, when I stopped, I was probably 10 to 15 feet from it, just off at a 45-degree angle from it, sitting on my snowmobile, and it was snowing, and it had been snowing. We'd had a wicked snowy
You were
winter.
by yourself?
Yeah, all by myself. Yep. It was around 10:30 at night too. I was coming home from a friend's house, and
What was the closest when you went by it? What was the closest you to it?
that was probably right when I stopped. It was like 10, 15 feet, and it was just standing in the snowbank.
10 or 15 feet from you?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was just I was on one side of the road because as I saw the thing and I was trying to figure out what it was when I was coming up, I edged over and stayed on my right side of the road. It was on the left side of the road, up on the snowbank. And when I stopped, I was probably 10 feet back, or 15 feet back, directly diagonal at it with my headlight facing straight down the road that I was headed.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the shape of the nose?
Kind of like ours. Maybe I would say the nose bottom was a little wider, but it actually fit the size of the face. Not like it was a big nose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a big face. So everything kind of looked real proportionate. And I never saw any ears either. So if it had ears, it was covered with hair. I couldn't see any ears. The only thing I do remember is I do remember the eyes being very dark. When it did blink,
Mm-hmm.
I could see it looked like dark marbles, almost like black marbles, kind of glistening a little bit because I could watch it blink. And I don't know. Other than that, I mean, he looked very human though, like very, very human with just like kind of I would say with exaggerated Neanderthal features to it.
Interesting.
But no monkey.
Really?
No. The only way I would compare this thing to a gorilla is because the overall, I mean, its shoulders were probably 3 feet, 3.5 feet wide, and I mean that part maybe looked like a gorilla because it was very muscular looking, very healthy looking, like you could picture a gorilla. Other than that, face wise, looked more like me and you, with just like maybe giant features, like a giant person has. They were just exaggerated, but. And the skin was darker. I've been asked what color the skin was.
What was the color of the skin of the face?
It was, when you see like a horse's mouth area, the lips, how it's that dark charcoal-y kind of color.
Yeah.
That's the color of the skin.
Interesting.
That was the color of the skin all the way. I could see the skin on the chest.
Uh-huh.
I could see the skin color on the face. And everything else was covered up with hair. So the rest of it, I couldn't tell what the skin was underneath it. But I would just take it was all same color everywhere.
Since having your sighting, how does it feel when you go into the woods now? Do you look at the woods differently than you did before?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had this sighting in 1987. I was 50. I had just turned 15 because it was my birthday's on January 19th. I don't remember the exact date. It was a Friday night. And I've never even gone back to look to see what date that was. It was a Friday night, late January. And I never used to be afraid of the woods. Spooked or nothing. I grew up in northern Vermont. Me and my friends, we would go like we're doing now. We'd sleep out with a campfire, nothing but a sleeping bag. I never thought twice about anything.
What do you think? Like we're quite a ways off the beaten path, off in the pucker brush here, aren't we?
Yeah. Oh, we're way out there.
And we're right next to a big mountain that's really remote. So I mean, how does that feel?
It's a little nerve-wracking. It is. I mean, I'm always nervous now. Like I said, I never used to be. I live kind of, not in the country, but not in the city. But I have woods, and where I have to take my garbage out. Sometimes I get nervous taking my garbage out around because there's no lights.
Dax, I'll tell you something. I've talked to a lot of people that have had encounters, like you tell me, with a lot of the similarities that you've just shared. And, I got to say a lot of them, I don't blame you. A lot of them feel the same way, and I think if I saw something like that, I'd probably feel that way too.
Yeah, no, it's where I'll never forget the feeling. It was a feeling of being either. I compare it to like when you have something like a deja vu. You almost get that numb feeling because I do remember standing there wondering what am I going to do because I knew I couldn't. I had no chance against this thing if it was going to get angry or want to attack me.
Right.
I never remember hitting the gas on my snowmobile. The whole incident with me sitting there probably lasted 10, 15 seconds at the most. And when I stood there and we kind of stared at each other, I got to watch it blink. I could see it breathing like it was coming a long way through the field.
Wow.
It had either run through deep snow, walked through deep snow, but I could watch the chest go in and out like that. And I never once remember hitting the gas on my snowmobile, but when all of a sudden it happened, and the next thing I know, I was hanging on for dear life, hugging the other side of the road snowbank, just, going past it. And I remember looking back, hoping to God that it wasn't chasing me. Because I had no idea, because if it jumped down, I couldn't go right, I couldn't go left. I was like, and there was no way I was going to be able to, beat this thing up.
And Dax, what are we in the middle of doing right now with the audio system of your vehicle?
Right now we're opening up every door, and I'm cranking up my stereo system and blasting Wayne's calls from Dallas and Wayne out here.
That's right.
Yeah, and we're going to do it all night until I get something here.
That's right. So that's what we're headed. That's what we're headed to do next. And thank you, Dax. That was really interesting. I found a lot of the stuff that you said had similarities to what other people said. That's really cool. It was an interesting sighting.
Nice.
Was it fair to say that it changed your life?
Oh yeah. I have a different outlook on everything. As a matter of fact, I think people get a little upset with me now because, you're normal, run-of-the-mill, everyday people.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think the same way about things. Everybody's in like, this is the way it is, this is what's real. I don't believe in that anymore, because whatever that was standing in front of me, which I'll say was a Bigfoot.
Right.
Because I don't know what else it was.
Right.
Well, if that was real to me, so what